Jacqueline and Jennifer. Thank you for coming, Jennifer.
Oh, you're most welcome.
I was like,
Hey,
Jennifer's
good to see you, Jennifer.
Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? She's always so prompt.
I'm here.
I'm happy
You're
you're
on
here.
mute now. So if they ask you something, you talk.
So we got some good listeners here.
These are all the people that they're on.
Alex's mother.
Everybody's on. So they're introducing everybody who's on it, Dory.
Hello,
They're
Dory.
introducing everybody.
Hi, Dory.
Dory, you're cutting in and out.
Hello.
Dory.
Hi. Hello.
How are you?
Oh, I'm okay, but I've never done this before, this Zoom business. So I'm totally bewildered.
You're doing great. Would you like
Can't
to?
hear you.
You're cutting in and out there, Dory.
If you need, Dory,
You can't put this here.
you could turn up your volume.
Go ahead.
And
Turn up the volume. I think it's on mute.
Hold on, I'll do it for her. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to tell her she puts the microphone on her stomach so no one can hear her.
I don't know.
The microphone's down here, Dory, so you keep putting it on your stomach so
Okay.
no one hears you.
What to do with it?
We might hear you digesting, Dory.
Oh, wait a minute. I got it. Oops. Okay. But that's the microphones are.
The microphone's down here, Dory.
we
Okay.
can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm on is because I wanted to hear Carola Dunn.
Oh, yeah.
And she's going to be with you tonight, right?
Isn't that wonderful? Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm
Carola's
an old
with
fan
us?
of hers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, how fun. I'm really glad that you tuned in, and that's great. Yeah. So Carola,
Yeah, well, I've met her several times.
yeah, Carola, right now, Carola and Alex, our other featured reader, they have they're muted and their images are off. I assume they've already checked in and worked on both of those. Is that right, Derek?
I don't know, maybe before I came on, Carl, did they do a sound check?
So Carola and Alex,
Yes, they did.
Okay, good. And a visual check, so we're all good?
Yes, everything's perfect. We're fine. We're happy.
Oh, great. That's
Awesome.
wonderful.
It's good to see you all.
Hold on, let me put the video on.
Yeah.
We're just,
Okay.
there's Dory now. Hello.
They see me.
And
You have to put it up, Dory. Oh, Dory, can you hold on so I can get your face in there?
Why? I don't want my face in there.
Hi,
There
Dory.
you go. There's
Oh,
your
yes,
face.
there we go. There's beautiful Dory.
welcome.
Welcome.
There.
Oh, okay.
So
I see me down here.
Hold on.
we're just trying to connect with Gerald and Bev Passey. Shall we understand that they're audience tonight? They're here to listen?
They're probably here to listen to Alex.
Well, we're thinking Bev Passey would be with Alex, but we're not sure about Gerald. So we're saying hello. But
Yeah, anybody who is hoping for a 5-minute reading spot should let us know pronto, but we'll assume otherwise that you are here to listen and love this. Maybe ask a question or two.
Oh, I don't know. I talk to her on Facebook all the time. To Carola. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We
And
can hear you.
so she said it was going to be raining up there tonight.
Yes.
Has it started raining?
Cats and dogs, in fact. I just saw a corgi go rushing by.
Really?
That's up here on the Vancouver Island. It's probably.
Yeah, so Carola's on the wet coast too. She's just further south, right?
Yeah, she's probably getting horses and cows, I think, instead.
Yeah, down in Oregon.
Oh, she's near Eugene, I think, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oregon, for
I
sure.
don't know how far that is from where you are.
We're in Port Alberni on Vancouver Island.
So it's a ferry and then probably another 8 hours, at least. 8 to 10 hours.
Really?
Driving.
8 hours from where she is to where you are?
Yeah, we're on Vancouver
No
Island.
kidding.
So we're above Seattle in Canada.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh, I forgot. That's
Tell
right.
them where you are, Dory.
Well, I'm in I'm in Fallbrook in San Diego County,
Oh, wow. Okay. Fantastic.
California. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Carola, her son lives in Carlsbad, and which is very close to where I live. Anyway, I've been up there where you are. I was in Vancouver a couple of years ago.
Nice.
And my son lives out that way too.
Okay.
Where is it?
Good.
Oh, I forget the name of this.
Is he in Washington?
Anyway, whatever
State?
you have to do, don't let me interrupt you. If you have to
We're
do
all good.
something,
No
We're all
worries.
good, Dory.
Yeah.
you're all good.
Mhm.
That's what-
Okay.
That's what these few minutes beforehand are about. We kind of get oriented, check in, say hi, and see how people are doing. So
There you go. Let's see. There you go, Dory.
Oh,
There.
oh,
I have to look up
yay.
to see me.
Isn't it wonderful how
Oh,
Zoom shrinks the world, Dory? Zoom makes the world so small, doesn't it? We're all
It does.
together.
oh, wow.
Yes.
I've never done this before. I have no idea. I know they do it for school,
Have to be careful. It's addicting.
but
She doesn't know.
Yeah.
She doesn't know all the buttons at the top. I'm like,
Oh,
you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
mute it, and you have.
Mhm.
So it's
I'm like,
nice.
oh
to-
wait, they don't see you in audio.
it's
I'm like,
nice.
hold on. They don't see you in audio. Hold on,
So-
let me get that.
wow.
I
Yeah.
always have a quip about doing
Carola
Zoom
said she's
broadcasts.
just,
Can I tell you my quip? I think the regulars
Carola
have
said
heard it
she's just
before,
learning too.
but I always say, except for tonight when I have to do a gig, normally I can wear my pajama bottoms and my bed socks and nobody knows the difference. That's what I like about doing Zoom.
Isn't that Carolyn Dunn?
Pretty wonderful.
No, that's not Carola. Well, I've got my PJs on too. I just put my PJs on, even though
Nice.
it's early.
So
Mm.
you've got a friend there helping you out. Who Dory? You have
Yes,
a friend
yes,
there?
I do. Uh-huh.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, Cindy, she's helping me.
Awesome.
She's
Go,
right
Cindy.
behind me.
That's lovely.
Hello.
Hi, Cindy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm out. I'm out.
Okay, so
Put the microphones down there.
so
How do we
Dory
get
and
this? Hold on,
Cindy,
'cause-
you might want to check out the different views. There's, if you go up to the right-hand corner and it says view, you can choose, click on that and you can pick speaker or gallery and you'll see the different layout. What
Hold
happens?
on.
It doesn't say view. Wait a minute.
Shoot.
Probably in the upper right of
I
your
don't-
screen.
Hold on. Let me get this.
Well, that says
Hold
more.
on.
It says more.
Hold on. Let me get this. See, you can see me because I know how to hold it.
Yeah.
What I have up in the left-hand corner of mine, it has mute, start video, share, participants. Let me go to the Zoom. No, that's that.
No, so in
I
one,
know it. I know right corner.
in one of the corners, it'll say view. Probably it'll either say view or it'll say gallery or it'll say speaker. And you can toggle between speaker and gallery so you can see everybody at once, sort of like the Brady Bunch. Hey, here's a story.
Yeah,
But a bunch
I
of
know how to
people-
do Zoom.
Okay,
Do we go to like maybe manage settings?
no,
Because I don't. Yeah, it's not on here. It doesn't say.
okay. Well, don't
Um,
worry about it. Yeah.
Because
no worries.
usually I know how. Oh wait, switch the grid. Ha 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 ha.
Switch the
Mine says
grid.
Now she can see everybody.
Perfect.
There we go. On here it says switch the grid.
All
So
right.
okay,
That
All
must
right,
be the Zoom
now-
update.
my. Oh. Everything's always on an update.
Yeah.
I'm 60, so it's my second year of college. Are you kidding?
Hey, we're the same
Okay.
age. We're the
Here
same
you
age.
go. Dory just turned 90.
Wow.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Dory.
Yes. Congratulations, Dory. You're doing great.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm gonna take this off, Dory, because I can't.
Oh, yeah, okay. I don't know how it comes off.
I know how to do it, Dory. I have to pop it out. Okay, let's see if this can work better for you. See how you can, because I want, where are you, Dory? See where you are?
Up here somewhere.
I know. Let's see if we do it this way.
Upside down? Oh, the microphone's
The
up there.
microphone's up there now, so now
Okay.
there you are. See how that's better?
Uh-huh.
No, don't do it so high. Yeah, look down. There, no, not that far, dear.
Can I just hold this higher?
Yes, you can now do it there. But don't put your hand. Oh, you can't,
No,
because that's where the camera is.
okay.
No, you can't do that. You have to hold it.
Where's the camera?
The camera's down here, Dory.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
I'm sorry, I'm sort of senile.
I
but
don't
you
know.
don't have to look
Not
up
getting that
and look
vibe.
down, Dory. See where your face is at all times. See, if you look up, Dory. See. No.
If I look up to see
See,
me,
look at you at the
okay, I won't. I'll look down here at
If you
Jackie. Is it Jackie?
just- this is who you were talking to.
And Derek?
Yes.
Jackie
Yeah.
and Derek.
Jackie and Derek. Jackie and
Yeah.
Derek are the ones who are doing the
Right.
who are
Oh,
the
here's
co-hosts.
Derek is our
Carol up
MC.
here.
Yep, Derek is our MC.
Yeah. So they are the ones who are hosting the Zoom. Okay.
okay. And there's Carola. Oops, she
She just-
disappeared.
okay. So there. You see how you're getting out of the picture?
I don't know what to do with myself.
It's okay. It's okay. There you go.
You can always,
You just have to find-
so if you
Okay,
need
I
to
can-
just chat, if you just need to chat with someone at that end and you don't want everybody to listen, then you can turn off the mic. And we're gonna all have our mics turned off in a moment
Okay.
anyway, so. But that's one idea for you.
I'm going to show you how to. talk to
Okay,
Carol.
so
No, that's all right.
Char's landing, and as Jacqueline just said, we're getting ready
If you
to
want
start
that.
top of the hour, and we're going to invite everyone to please mute your microphones. And we're here in Port Alberni on Vancouver Island. We have a few guests here inside, and plus now we've got our Zoom guests are up on the big screen TV here, so we're doing a hybrid performance. So thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to turn it over to Karl in a minute, and he the moderator, and we will have a lovely evening.
Sorry there, I'm back. Were you out for a walk there, Jacqueline? Looks like you were out for a walk. Or maybe just, no? Were you out walking today, Jacqueline?
You know what? I went from my car to the house and this happened. The
Okay.
rain is really torrential, so.
Oh, it is. I know. I'm staying with my parents and I walked down here with a small umbrella and I'm totally soaked, but that's okay.
All right.
There.
I think we might as well get started, eh, Carl?
I think we can. Just let me find there's my words.
Yeah.
Magic Mermaid Emcee Derek Hanebury is a Port Alberni writer, a poet of fiction and creative nonfiction, who taught writing here at North Island College for many years. His latest book, Both Sides Now, is a collaboration of short fictions with two of his past students. His upcoming solo collection entitled Something Elsewhere, All the Girl, will come out this fall.
Thank you very much, Carl, and welcome everybody to another edition or episode, whatever you want to call it, of Electric Mermaid. Coming to you live from Char's Landing in beautiful Port Alberni, beautiful, wet, soggy Port Alberni, and I've never been so grateful to see the rain as I was this year. It feels like a blessing the way it's falling out there after such a long, dry summer. So welcome, and we normally, of course, would be all there in Char's Landing, but we're still doing some of this vaccine problem stuff. So I'm at home, and the vaccinated folks are there, and that's all good. And we're going to manage it with the two prongs of the Zoom and the live readers as well. So big welcome to everybody. Great to see you here this evening, and to be all primed for our feature readers that are coming tonight. They're going to be something else. Really looking forward to hearing their readings. Carola and Alex. We've been doing this for how long now, Jackie? I don't know, about a year or so, I guess. And I just feel like it gets more fun every time, and we get such a diverse group coming together. It's wonderful, and we really encourage that diversity and welcome writers of all levels and audience of whatever level to come and listen and be with us and just share an evening together and bring it together and have a little bit of a literary community for an evening here. So tonight we're going to have some open mic readers, and we're also going to have two featured readers, as I mentioned earlier. But before we get started, I just want to say a huge thank you to Char at Char's Landing, who graciously does all the Zoom hosting. She makes this happen and does her magic, and it is being recorded. If those of you who are on now didn't notice the recording sign come up, it is being recorded, and Char does post it on to YouTube later and use excerpts for promotion and things like that. So hopefully you're comfortable with that. If not, you can just put up your icon or something. We'll black out your eyes, whatever works for you. So as I said, we're a diverse group. We welcome diversity, and the only thing we don't welcome is anything that gets too close to hate speech. And so we like to keep things positive here and be supportive and uplifting of each other. We'll also have some time for Q&A with our featured readers. So keep that in mind when you're listening to them. If you have any thoughts or questions, you'll get a chance to ask them. And we'll unmute you to do that, of course. Or you can always put it in the chat box. So if you haven't noticed, there is a chat box you can click on down at the bottom of your screen where it says chat, and just put that box over to the side. And people can post their spontaneous comments in there as they're listening to their readings, promote any of their own writing or books or websites, whatever you want in there. You can private message people if you want, or just send it to everyone, whatever works for you. And you can also take a copy of that chat at the end of the night or at any point that you want by just clicking the three dots to the right of the address file. So whether it's to everyone or to a specific person, there's three dots there. Click on that and it'll let you save it. So that'll save you having to write down websites and things like that. You can just put it in a file. So yeah, really grateful to have everybody here. And if anyone is feeling generous tonight on the Zoom screen from the Zoom room, Charlene always is grateful to receive any donations that she can to keep the doors open on Char's Landing through this latter part of the pandemic. And you can just do a quick e-transfer at charslanding.com, and that address is in the chat box. That's e-transfer at charslanding.com if you want to send a donation to help Char out. Keep the doors open and keep this happening. And the people that are live there, you already threw your donations in the bucket, so thank you very much for that. And so thank you also to Carl for being our moderator, and for Jackie for being our artistic director. She keeps this show going and lines up all our featured readers, and does our press releases and so on and so forth. And generally, she's just the brains behind the whole operation. We just let her direct us. We're just her minions. It's all good. And also we have Micah Gardner, who is our resident photographer. And I don't know if Micah's here tonight. I haven't seen him yet, but he often drops in to listen on the Electric Mermaid. And for those of you who might not know, the Electric Mermaid is actually named so after Luma, which is a sculptured mermaid that is hanging in the rafters there at Char's Landing. And Char can make, there she is, she's all lit up, Luma, with all the lights on. You can see her curvy fin body there at the back of Char's Landing. And that was a volunteer project done by Micah was involved in that one. Of course, the local artists got together and built Luma originally, and then refurbished her again when we did Electric Mermaid and brought her back to life in a revised body. So that's our mascot, and that's where we take the name Electric Mermaid for those who might be curious. So I think I've covered everything to get us started here. We're coming to you from the unceded territory of the Sishat and the Pachyseth First Nations. I should mention that because it's very important. We're grateful to them and their ancestors for sharing their land with us. We happen to live in a very beautiful part of the world, and so I'm grateful to them every day that we're here. So let's get started. We're going to have a couple of open mic readers. So the 5-minute reading first from one from a very busy Joy Sheldon, who's going to have to duck out early tonight because she's got another gig to go to. But we're really grateful you could stop in and give us a reading first, Joy, from the Cowichan Valley. Take it away.
Hi, am I unmuted now?
You are indeed.
There's the drum. Okay, again from my recently published memoir, Cowichan Kid, a short school song I wrote, and I hate to admit it, about 1960, sung to the tune of the Colonel Bogey March. And I hope you all know da 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 da. So it's really short. I'm going to sing it twice. If you'd like to clap or join in on the second round, do so. Cheer for Mount Bravo, and that of course was the name of the school. I forgot to tell you. Come on, let's cheer for Mount Bravo. Get up and let's get on the go. Winners, we're not beginners, as we've been at it and at it before. 2, 3, 4, wake up. Let's get on the move right now. We're really in the groove. Show how. We've got the know-how, we're out to prove it. High today, one more time. Come on, let's cheer for Mount Bravo. Everybody clap. Get up, let's get on the go. Winners, we're not beginners, as we've been at it and at it before. 2, 3, 4, get up. Let's get on the move right now. We're really in the groove. Show how. We've got the know-how. We're out to prove it. And we're high today. Hooray! And that school, Mount Provo Junior Secondary, I attended for grade 8 and 9. And I'm doing a very, very short reading, just a few paragraphs, called Crinolines and White Lipstick. In grade 8, to our horror, several girls were removed from class at Mount Provo School. I happened to be one of them. We had come to school wearing crinolines, and if you youngsters out there don't know, those are those fluffy half slips that really made your short skirts stick out, and nylons with garter belts. There was no pantyhose in those days. And even worse, some of the girls sported white lipstick and backcombed substitute ratted hair. Mr. G marched us straight to the girls' washroom. He did not come inside though, but just yelled at us to remove the undergarments and give them to him out the door. Any girl who did not remove enough of it would have it removed for her with paper towel when she came out. We made sure we had it all removed. We were further ordered that next day we were to appear at school wearing proper ankle and knee socks and no lipstick. I don't think I had been wearing any white lipstick, honest. I probably couldn't afford such a luxury, but I had been wearing the offending garter belt and nylons, which came to mid-thigh. The dark band at the top was often not totally covered either when one bent over, giving the boys a good look at the stark white garters as well. We were further told that if we wanted our property back, we were to appear at the principal's office after school to claim it. Any complaints, and he would discuss the issue with our parents. We grudgingly complied. Yep, them were the good old days of teaching. Today there would probably be a huge protest march, or at least a contingent of angry parents squawking about infringements of their children's human rights, or the students themselves would launch a protest. I cringe at the mini tops and tight jeans with big leg holes sported by many of the high school students today. The girls currently are affecting really long hair below shoulder length, which is constantly hanging in their eyes. Many of them wear boyish workman style caps with the prominent brims to hold this hair back. I think that Mr. G would have confiscated those hats too. And just a picture of Mount Prevost. Unfortunately, it's just the black and white, and that is the twin humped mountain, and that is a view from the school of Mount Prevost, and that's why they named the school Mount Prevost Junior Secondary School. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure poor Mr. G would have a heart attack if he walked into a high school nowadays.
Or unfortunately, he'd be fired.
Yeah. I just had this crazy image in my mind of him carrying this armload of crinolines back to his office.
It looked quite bizarre, I'll tell you. It did look quite bizarre.
I bet it would have been interesting. Okay, super. Thank you so much, Joy, and hope you can stick around for a little while before you have to duck out. All right, great, and great to see you, and we'll hope to see you again in October. I won't talk to you before you go. Our next reader comes to us from Ontario, Jennifer Wenn from my hometown of London, Ontario. Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you, and looking forward. I trust you're going to read some more poetry for us tonight.
There you go. Yes, I am. So this is my spotlight spot, all of it right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, and thanks for having me. Tonight I will do 3 pieces from 3 longer works. The first one is from my poem cycle, A Song of Milestones, which is an emotional and spiritual tour of my gender journey as a transgender woman. It has been published by Harmonia Press and imprint of Belleville Books and is available through my website. The title and overall structure were inspired by Walt Whitman's glorious Song of Myself. Each of the pieces has one or more foundational literary helpers. The poem I am doing is the second section, which deals with an important, painful memory. It is called Scarlet Letter, and the primary reference here is to Nathaniel Hawthorne's famous novel. You may also notice allusions to a Somerset Maugham novel and a Christopher Nolan movie script. Childhood memories, misty, fading, a change of schools, skipping a grade, classroom chaotic, Tourette twitching, misunderstood, attracting bullies like vultures to roadkill, medicated, and then a black blank tunnel, no light, mist impenetrable, features lost forever, except a flash, revealing a dance on the razor's edge, revealing shame, desperation, confusion, suffocating in a foreign shroud. One thought, maybe I can get rid of it, the symbol, the focus, flash, blade quivering in my hand, wielded, blood drawn, then stopped by a force unknown, a message that this was not the way. Flash, found out, denying, refusing, help, assuring, anything to escape the spotlight. Flash, shame coursing through every fiber, shame forming my own scarlet letter, not on display like Esther's, but seared deep in my soul like Dimsdale. Not an A, constantly shape-shifting, M, misfit, to F, freak, to S, sick, to U, unworthy. Shame, incepted far down, deep into dreams within dreams, there to slowly spread festering tentacles. But cloistered there also, dragged in by the letter, a small, quiet hope, a vision of being free of the shroud, two complementary adversaries locked in an unending pas de deux. For the second one, thank you. My paternal grandfather was a home child, Bernardo boy to be exact. He was born in England and through a complicated series of events ended up in the Bernardo Homes orphanage, even though his birth parents were still alive and by then living together. Later in 1921, he was sent to Canada at 11 years of age to be an indentured servant. He knew nothing of his birth family, then or later. After his death in 1973, I started researching his story and his family background, and after 40 years, published a book called From Adversity to Accomplishment. More recently, I wrote a mini-epic poem called Bernardo Boy, intertwining his and his family's story with my search for it. I will read most of Canto 9, which portrays some of what I found out about my family history, jumping off from Grandpa's birth parents, Albert and Molly. Research continuing year in and year out, probing archives, ordering certificates and census returns, following a virtual journey beyond Albert and Molly, deeper into the past, more precious fragments unearthed, rebuilding the shattered mosaic piece by piece, discovering East Anglian villages from Buckingham to Worsted and the great regional center, Norwich, boasting grand castle and cathedral, a different church every Sunday, and a new pub every night on offer, site also of inner slums and twisting narrow streets, and revealing such a family pageant, coppersmiths, brass workers, a tinsmith, a cloth weaver, a wire weaver, a gardener, a charwoman, dressmakers, a lady servant whose son transited from farmhand to maltster to husbandman to innkeeper, and then owning a dairy farm and hiring his own servant, a miller who ended his days in the workhouse, an orphan who took to the sea, then settled as a barge waterman and saw two of his sons follow him, a ship's engineer, a fishmonger, a master fish curer who owned a dockside fish factory, and so many women holding it all together, encountering cholera, typhus, and tuberculosis, a myriad of cancers and more, meeting the elderly and little ones taken oh so soon, discovering a distraught mother who threw herself into a river and ended her pain, finding slum dwellers and middle class, hardship and unsung triumph, discovering people with unheralded lives and untold stories, presences now felt all around, an epic saga encompassing a couple whose love broke all the rules, and their son sent by others to Canada in servitude, all people of my own unknown historical drama, people as worthy of celebration as any monarch and yet uncelebrated. This forest of connection, this family, still alive then in Harry and Bertha and their witness, a vast inheritance denied to Grandpa, but gifted to the next generations, to me, and now hovering nearby, silently calling out in search of a voice. Thank you. Finally, I will do a somewhat longer piece from my recently completed 17-section cycle called Auschwitz Trinity, which is a belated response to having experienced that unforgettable place back in 2005. A guiding principle in this work is grounding it in things I saw. This part, called Pink Triangle, is founded on a display of the infamous Nazi classification symbols imposed on camp inmates. It is also, for reasons that will become obvious, pretty personal. A sneering, macabre ostinato grounding the entire horror-sonant din, Nazi mania for speciation of the condemned, rooted in the infamous yellow star, branding as accursed and ancient faith, culture, and tradition. Here in Auschwitz, the star modulates to a clamorous fugue of triangles, green for professional criminals, black a grab bag labeled asocial, swallowing up the Roma, sex workers, the homeless, and more, red for political prisoners, purple signifying Jehovah's Witnesses, yellow for the Jewish people, overlaid with another triangulated color to achieve the mandated star. But there, one more theme weaving in, plaintive and forlorn, the pink triangle, mocking label dominated by men condemned only for loving other men, but slipping into the silences, also condemned for their inner flames, my sisterhood, female spirits tearing at contrary, shrouding male shells. Blessed to be born in a different time and place, now transitioned from Jeffrey to Jennifer, my newly integrated mind's eye sees Chamber Jeff myopically scan the display case and pass on. Jennifer from her subconscious prison, insistently importuning, but heard as just a mysterious, fleeting susurration. Miles and milestones later, my memories are remade, imbued with new meaning, and pen in hand, I spiral through that pink triangle, tripping over the decades to the 20s of another century, an entr'acte between violent cataclysms and wondering, what if this was my time? What would I have been? Most places, a tormented butterfly locked in imperishable masculine amber, tagged pervert, insane, degenerate, never to feel the sun or hear my wings whisper on the wind. But Weimar period Germany, the Great War then a nightmare past, Hitler a distant rumble expected to fade. Daring, decadent, doomed Weimar, its beating heart at blazing Berlin, an ephemeral roiling crucible, a time of Bauhaus, Albert Einstein and Thomas Mann, Brecht and Weil's Threepenny Opera, Marlene Dietrich and the Blue Angel, prostitution, drugs, and the black market, wildly uninhibited cabarets, and much, much more, a tumultuous symphony spacious enough for even my pioneering sisters to have a part, tremulous but growing, permits to publicly present our true selves, Magnus Hirschfeld's Research and Medical Institute, our own magazines and nightclubs headlined by the infamous, amazing El Dorado, above all, being seen and heard, casting off shame and having community. Maybe there I could have shattered the unyielding chrysalis and found my voice. Then the clanging chimes at midnight proclaimed onslaught of the Hakenkreuz and its minions, diversity now deemed noxious plague, the entire pink cohort, gay and trans in modern terms, repudiated by families and former friends, pilloried, hounded, step by step, books burned, Hirschfeld's Institute torched, El Dorado perverted to Nazi headquarters, arrested, peoples of all the triangles designated for thraldom and disposal in the camps, where pink sank into the abyss. Given the most arduous assignments, despised even by other prisoners, many driven to suicide, their SS slavers incited to new depths of depravity, all because our inner stops reverberated with chromatic notes. And mine, no doubt, would have been deftly snuffed, never to be resounded. Witness a curtain crashing down, our little song crushed by an ushered in Götterdämmerung, hemorrhaging death and hate, a scene repeated over and over like a record needle stuck on Wagner's lyrical savagery. My forgotten sisters and brothers, revealed or hidden, self-aware or suppressed, we have always been here. But this time was different. You were convention shakers, mold breakers, trailblazers, and came the howling midnight klaxons. You paid audacity's highest price and, obliviated or not, were pitched with so many others into hell's waiting maw. Now here I am, comfortable, but for the unceasing etheric corral, awed, guilt-stained, grateful, scribbling. I shed lonely tears of pride, for before those fatal klaxons, my sisterhood fought another war, invisible, soul deep, one I know well, a desperate sub rosa pas de deux, shame and hope whirling on the razor's edge. And all those decades ago, hope flung aside the inherited, imposed, manly shroud, divine, feminine, spiritus, finally dancing free like evanescent will-o'-the-wisps amidst a marsh. Turning, I sing out that your lives had value and meaning. I quiver with anger at the assassins who tormented and butchered you, and others like us to this day. Horror-bound and uncomprehending, I weep for your suffering, a profound drop in a bitter, agonized ocean. May these few words be a memorial from one who, having seen it, cannot and will not forget, and who honors and exalts the hidden realm of the pink triangle. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Jennifer. That was powerful. Very powerful.
Thank you.
And apologies for not mentioning that you were one of the spotlight readers tonight.
It's not a check before I got going.
Yeah, totally. It just blew by me when I looked at the list there. But yeah, so for those who don't know, out of our regular readers, we offer the spotlight for a 10-minute reading for a regular reader to take a little bit more time and go a little bit more deeply into their work. And that was so worth it to have a little bit more of a deep dive into yours tonight, Jennifer. That was very powerful. And the blending of the past and the present and bringing the two together. Yeah, I'm very moved. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our featured readers now, and I'm going to start with Alex because he's furthest east, and in with the time and everything, it's a little bit later in Winnipeg. I know we don't want to keep you up late. I know you need your beauty sleep there, Alex. So
absolutely.
So welcome to the Electric Mermaid. We're really happy to have you here, and I'm just going to give a little bit of background about you in terms of you are a poet, I understand, but you're into the novel writing now. And I'm going to ask you some questions about that because I've kind of straddled the two worlds myself and see if we share the same kind of challenges in moving into that kind of longer format. It wasn't easy for me to make the transition. But anyway, so Alex is a novelist and poet living in Winnipeg. The novel he's going to read from this evening is called Mirror's Edge, I hope, is the information I got, which is his first novel. But I understand he's also got a second novel being released this month, which is a high fantasy tale called Shadow of the Desert Sun. So really glad to have you here, Alex, and the floor is yours, as they say. And we'll if you want to read for 10 minutes or so, and then or 15, and we'll open it up for questions after that. That would be awesome.
Sounds good. Yeah, I also have a copy of my newest book here too. So I'm really excited about it. I just got it like last week, so you know what it is when you get a new book, you can't put it down and you have to show it to everybody.
Absolutely.
But that's not the one we're doing today. It's Mirror's Edge. So I'm going to read from that. It's a speculative fiction with elements of sci-fi and fantasy to it. It's based in it's based in two different worlds. The main world is Wrath. He's the main character. His world is kind of a slightly futuristic, technologically advanced. I guess you could call it a dystopia. It's that's one of the things it kind of tries to explore, but also it's his world is like branding as kind of a religion. He has a microchip in the back of his neck that it connects him not only to the technology around him, but to everybody around him, because almost everybody in the society has them implanted in them. And so he's become a little bit of a cynic, a cynic to the point where he's probably downright misanthropic. And so he deals with this world where he lives in by drinking and an unhealthy relationship with sex and drugs and all that sort of good stuff. When you meet him, you're going to find, I'm going to start with the first chapter because what better place to start. But yeah, he's a bit of an edgelord, you'll find, but give him a chance to grow. It's the first chapter. And eventually he does meet Sarah. He gets transported to a parallel world where he finds Sarah in her world. It's kind of a pristine woodland paradise that's the Industrial Revolution. It never really touched. People live in subsistence farming and a very spiritual communism with nature. And with each other to an extent, but that, of course, with time you'll find that Sarah's world isn't quite what it seems either. There's this sort of a mystical religion that kind of has a sort of a magical bent to it as well. And maybe there's a dark side to that world too. And that's the juxtaposition of the two worlds is the main theme that I like to explore. But all we're going to do is Wrath's world for now. You'll have to read the book if you want to see Sarah and her world. And yeah, so I'm going to start at chapter 1. The alarm clock bleated like a cannibal rooster with a chicken bone caught in its throat. It crowed 6 times before the third blind slam of Wrath's fist finally broke its beak. His head was throbbing, or was it spinning? Not to say Wrath was a stranger to mornings like this one, or afternoons either, which he supposed this actually was. It was no rare occurrence for him to wake up in a state where any part of the world that wasn't comprised of pillowy softness was simply an unacceptable place for his head to be. This kind of hangover was somewhat in the middle of a Chernobyl bad and 3 Mile Island mild, like a Fukushima hangover, maybe. Wrath generally didn't have much trouble coping with this level of nuclear disaster, but only on the days where he had the option of burrowing his face into his pillow and spending the day wavering on the borders of consciousness. Unfortunately, this was not one of those days. Breathing and pulse rate indicators suggest you are falling back asleep, droned a polite voice in Wrath's head. Wrath thought it sounded British, but anytime he asked, the voice insisted it didn't have a nationality. Circadian rhythm analysis suggests that you will quickly enter the REM state and will sleep for at least 2 more hours. Blood alcohol level suggests that it may be even longer. Yep, Wrath agreed groggily, rolling onto his side so he faced away from the alarm clock. Time doesn't exist if you can't see it. Mr. Tillian has already issued you 2 formal warnings about your tardiness. You will have grounds to terminate your employment. Tillian isn't going to do shit. Who cares anyway? Your bank account contains insufficient funds to pay both your rent and tech charges if you do not receive your final paycheck for this month. Yeah, and maybe if I don't pay your tech bill, they'll shut you off and I won't have to listen to your nagging ass anymore. But Wrath did finally haul himself out of bed. He groaned like a man twice his age as he pulled himself up. He could remember when he used to be able to do this like it was nothing, out all night hitting the bottle and anything else he could get his hands on, and then getting up on 2 hours of sleep wouldn't even faze him. He would even have a smile on his face when he left for work, though he usually was still drunk. Wrath was 30 years old now, and at this age, a serious hangover could make a praying man out of an atheist. And that's just what Wrath did as he searched around his war-zone bedroom for clean clothes. Wrath sent out a prayer to any god who might be listening, asking if his work could burn down or his boss get hit by a car, or maybe even if the whole city could get ravaged by an earthquake. Not a big one, just enough for some infrastructure damage and major traffic fuck-ups. 1 or 2 dozen casualties tops. Wrath wasn't a sadist after all. Wrath paused to wait for tremors. No such luck. The trick with praying is you've got to realize that God is more of a small favors kind of guy, Wrath said aloud as he finally found a pair of underwear that passed the smell test. He's not Publishers Clearinghouse coming to knock on your door with a big check. God is the guy who points out a deep puddle to you at the last second before you plunge in up to your knee. If you want your prayers answered, you've got to send the kind of prayer that he specializes in. Dogs that ask for treats get fed, but dogs that ask for the moon are stuck howling. After Wrath slipped into his underwear, he dropped down on all fours and peeked underneath the bed. He cackled gleefully as he found that his second prayer had been answered. Wrath snatched up the rolling bottle of cheap vodka, and he poured the rest of it down his throat. He winced as his saliva mixed with the bitter booze. Vodka is the perfect hair of the dog, he said sagely, despite the struggle to keep his tongue from fleeing his mouth. No one ever smells a few shots of it on your breath if you wash it down with a mouthful of juice or something. I guess I should have prayed for some juice too. Your terms of employment with Mr. Tillian include you not being under the influence of. The voice in his head started to blather, completely unappreciative of Wrath's introspective words of wisdom. Hey, when I want your opinion, I'll Google it. Wrath chuckled at himself. The booze was already putting some luster back in the morning. Wrath went to grab a half smoke out of the ashtray from his bedside table, but he paused. Shouldn't there be another body in his bed? Hazy as the night before might be, he distinctly remembered having company after coming home from the bar. But all there was now was a tousled pile of sheets. How had she snuck out? That was awfully polite of her, giving him the bypass of the usual painful early morning small talk and compounding the agony of his hangover. Wrath scratched his head and began to mentally retrace his steps from last evening. The entire night was foggy, but the last thing that he could remember was a woman sitting on the edge of his bed and commenting on the row of books that he kept on the shelf of his adjacent bedroom wall. Give me 1 second here.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, This is wonderful. Could you slow down just a little bit?
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah,
That'd
that
be great.
is.
Don't worry about trying to get through all the material, because I just want, the words are so great. I want to be sure we can all catch them.
Okay, sorry. I thought I
down.
was slowing down, but that is a problem I occasionally have.
All
All
right.
right.
Beautiful.
It was the strangest thing. He had a fair memory of the rest of the night to that point, including the woman. He hadn't even been particularly attracted to her when he saw her at the bar. She was skinny, not Rath's type at all. Mosquito bite tits and an ass like a pancake. Her tangle of curly brown hair wasn't his cup of tea either. The last thing you wanted while you were getting a blowjob was to look down and imagine a bunch of baby birds chirping up at you to feed them. Rath had a theory about why people hooked up with people they would wake up to regret. He knew lots of people would assume that he had got so drunk last night that he'd somehow hallucinated that the broomstick and a blouse had been hot enough to take home. People wake up in these scenarios and tell themselves it was all just a sorcery of the liquor, beer goggles or whatever they want to call it. That's bullshit. People don't regret one-night stands because their standards are too low when they're drunk. They wake up regretful because their standards are too high when they're sober, or because society's standards are too high. You wake up thinking, oh shit, I went home with this loser. What is everybody going to think of me when they find out? The night before, you didn't decide to go home with this person because you were suddenly attracted to them. You were always attracted to them. But when you're wasted, you just don't give a damn what your friends or your parents or what society thinks. If people acted like their drunk selves all the time, there would be a lot less uptight bullshit about who was good enough to fuck whom. Liquor is massively responsible for the diversity of the gene pool. All everyone talks about are the lives that liquor ruins, but nobody gives credit for the lives that it creates. You're married, was the first thing that Rath asked her, gesturing with his gin and tonic at her wedding ring. She smiled at him. Does it matter? They shot the shit for a little while. Rath struggled to remember any of those details. He was pretty sure her name was Shelley or Sheila, something that would go well with selling seashells by the seashore. In a short time, which would have been shocking to any happily married person, they were talking about where they were going to go after they left the bar. It's getting kind of late. This was actually a voice trigger Rath had set up to check with Moses if he had any new messages. He wanted to see if he had any hotter prospects for the night before he committed to this one. He did not. Late? Sheila giggled. It's not even midnight. The bar doesn't close for hours. Yeah, true. Rath appraised the scarecrow that he was about to drill like an unlicensed dentist. Well, if this dump is really where you want to spend the rest of the night, paying $6 for watered-down booze. Hey, don't be an asshole, objected the eavesdropping bartender. Rath waved the guy off, whom he thought he'd tipped well enough to keep his mouth shut, but apparently not. Or we could get out of here, head somewhere quieter. Where did you have in mind? Sheila was running her hand up Rath's thigh, where it had been for the last half hour or so. How about we go back to your place? You said you didn't live far from here. I could do things to you that would lower your neighbor's property value. Oh my God, you are the worst, Sheila laughed, giving him a playful shrug. But we can't go to my house. I don't know when my husband is coming home. How about your place? Yeah, I guess. Rath remembered them heading back to his place, and he remembered the bag of bones sitting down on the edge of his bed. She started to take off her clothes and asked about his books, but that's when his recollection abruptly ended. It wasn't like the blurriness of a drunken haze either. The rest of the night was just gone, like it was surgically removed. He had no recollection of having sex, the woman leaving, or of himself going to sleep. Rath was a little disquieted by this. He grabbed the smoke from his bedside table and lit it, dragging deeply as he glanced about his room in hopes of spotting something that would trigger his memory. Hey, Mo. That was the name of the computer he'd been talking to all morning. Actually, it was MOSES, which stood for Microorganic Sensory Electrogram Synapse, but Rath would be damned if he was ever going to call the thing Moses. What happened here last night? Your guest, Miss Tiffany Dawn Jones, left the residence at about 22 minutes after 12 o'clock this morning. Yeah, how about before that? Your privacy settings do not allow me to gather data during such events. Would you like me to alter your privacy settings? Hell no. Well, if Moses hadn't been able to watch, that meant they'd probably had sex. Only probably, though. Moses was set to look the other way anytime Rath's biochem levels suggested that sex might be about to take place. And while the tech was good, it was far from perfect. There were still plenty of ways to fool it, and sometimes it just fooled itself. Ah, shit. Rath jumped up as he caught a sideways glance at his bedside clock. He took the last drag of his smoke and butted it before heading to the bathroom. What the hell was he doing sitting around here with his head in the clouds? He was going to be late for work. So what if he'd had a complete blackout? People talked about having them all the time. So what if he couldn't remember having sex with one broad? It probably wasn't even worth remembering anyway. Still, he pondered as he unzipped his pants and started pissing. Why did it feel so much more severe than any other night he'd gotten wasted drunk? How could a night so fully disappear? Urinalysis complete. Recommended intake of all staple vitamins and proteins. There is also an indication of a small amount of cocaine in your system. Ingestion of stimulant narcotics is in neglect of Dr. Martin's warning. Continued violation will result in an increase in the cost of your health insurance premiums. Yeah, Rath grumbled as he shook off. Stick it up your ass. Would you like me to schedule a rectal examination for your next physical with Dr. Martin? The procedure is recommended for your age demographic. Ugh, cheeky fucker. Rath stepped away from the toilet to examine himself in the mirror. It had been a week since he shaved, and his face was thick with dark stubble. His short, dark brown hair was unruly and a bit matted, but with his aloof brown eyes and solid build, he was the kind of guy who could get away with the unkempt look. A girl had once told him that he was homeless sexy. He hadn't immediately understood what she meant until she suggested that they get homeless drunk and homeless fuck. It turned out this girl thought being homeless was one hell of a time. Rath reached back and felt the barely noticeable microchip that was implanted under where his spine met his brainstem, just under the skin. That was Moses. Apparently, most people were barely aware of theirs, but Rath had a habit of picking at it. Sometimes he fantasized about removing it. He hated the thing just sitting there, reminding him of all the tiny nanobots floating around in his system, analyzing his body and transmitting back and forth with his Moses chip like a secondary nervous system. But what kind of life would there be for him without it? He'd heard of people removing their chips, and not long after, many ended up paying to have them put back in. Rath had no desire to be one of those people who walked around incompatible with everything else in the world, to be one of the Macs. He finished his rudimentary hygiene routine and headed out the door. He didn't much care for his Moses chip, but it was what kept him plugged into the world. And like a fetus bound to its umbilical cord, there didn't seem to be an alternative way of living without it. That's it.
Awesome. Fantastic first chapter, man. That was great. So I jotted down a few lines in the chat that just really jumped out at me that were just stellar.
Oh yeah,
there. Yeah,
awesome.
Super. Yeah, one about alcohol being massively responsible for the diversity of the gene pool.
Yeah,
so true. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like I've met this character before at university. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a common archetype, I think, for a good reason.
All right. So we're going to throw it open for questions, and people can jot it in the chat if you'd like, or just unmute if you want. But I'm going to, Jackie's got one. I see her hand there. I'll start it off with Jackie. Go ahead.
Alex, great stuff, and really hops along, and it's not hard to fall into line and see, into the reality of that dystopia you've got set up there. So good work.
Thank you.
My question actually has to do with comparisons. So, publishers will say, what is this book like, or what, so I'm asking you about what other books it might compare to, or movies even.
Well, see, that's a tough one because I tried to kind of blend genres here a lot, because I know at this point it's kind of, Rath's World is going to kind of make you feel like, ooh, a lot of people are like, oh, this could be a Black Mirror episode. And absolutely it could. Unfortunately, I had already written and named the book. I would have probably picked something besides Mirror if I had remembered that Black Mirror was a thing. But yeah, I think that's pretty close. But after you get into jumping back and forth between the two worlds, when you get introduced Sarah's world, I can't think of a lot of things that would balance both things like that. There's a lot of books and movies that would do one or the other, but it was really the clashing together of the two worlds in order to juxtapose them that I think, and the whole reason I did it, I was like, I don't think anyone's done this. So I might be wrong. I haven't read and watched everything, but nothing pops to mind.
Fantastic. Really lovely.
When you wrote it then, Alex, did you write the two worlds simultaneously? Did you go back and forth, or did you write one then write the other? How did the process go?
Well, it was two different ideas that I had that eventually I was like, I had the idea of Wrath and his world for a long time, but I was just like, this is a thing that's been done. Like the protagonist of, you know, just like, oh, I'm really tired of society, so I'm going to drink and I'm going to be kind of snarky and da, 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 da. That's the thing that's, you know, I'm always entertained by, but I also know it's been done to death. But then when I started kind of reading some like spiritual self-help sort of stuff to help me with my anxiety, which and when I kind of got into the communities surrounding that, like the online communities, the people that took it like a lot further than just being self-help to be kind of like, and then I was like, oh wow, you could base a whole toxic society around this, people that take this way too seriously. And then I came up with Sarah's World. I was like, these two characters would be a very great conflict with each other. Like, I was like, who could really go in there and fuck up Sarah's world? Like, Wrath could do it. They all fit together very nicely.
That's great. Awesome.
Thanks.
Anybody else out there have a question before I throw another one at Alex here? Just go ahead and unmute. No. Okay. So I was going to ask you about your transition from poetry to prose writing, and especially in the novel genre. How did that go for you? Or was it blended all the time, or did you?
It was pretty much blended all the time. I started off not even just in poetry. I really, really wanted to like write punk rock songs and be in a punk rock band. And then eventually I was just like, well, I can neither sing nor make a band happen. So eventually it just started being poetry. But at the same time, I always wanted to write novels and stuff too. So both things were happening at once, and it just, yeah, they're both just disciplines that I've always really enjoyed. And there was never really much of a transition, but they're massively different things. I think, what was it? I heard Neil Gaiman did a quote once where it was like, you write a poem, it's like going into your cupboard and seeing what ingredients you have and making a cake out of them over a weekend. But then when you want to write a novel, you need like skyscraper architecture plans, lay them out in front of you and be in for a long haul. Like you're not going to see the finished project until it's there.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't make it through the long haul, that's for sure. It's not an easy road, I know. Yeah. So how long would you say it took you to get your first novel out? Like start.
Mean, that's a tough one, because the first novel, actually, ironically, I finished this one before I started this one, before I had even thought of this one. And I wrote probably 3 different versions of this one. And then it got published a few years after that. So this one took me probably like 7-8 years, I would say. But this one, the whole writing, it took probably about 9 months of writing, and then a couple months of editing, and yeah, so it all depends. It depends on the novel, and it all depends on where you're at too. It can be a huge slog, or sometimes the pieces can just fit a lot better.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, my first book, I remember I had that moment of clarity where I just saw the whole thing. And after that, it just went so fast.
Yeah.
But other ones is like you're groping in the fog, right? Where am I going with this? God,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
But that first moment of clarity, you're always like, this is going to be so easy. And then it never.
It's never easy.
No.
Anyway, yeah, that was fabulous. Thank you so much. Any last questions before we move along here? No, super. Okay. Big clap from Char there as well. So thanks, Alex. That was wonderful, man. And hope you can hang around and listen to some more of the reading tonight, and come back and join us anytime. We're the third Friday of the month every month. So just go to charslanding.com and you can get the Zoom link anytime. So
Absolutely.
Okay, man. Take care.
You too.
All right. So we're going to move on to our next featured reader, and that Carola Dunn is coming to us from down by Eugene, Oregon, I believe, and in our time zone at least, but a little bit further south. And I don't know whether you're getting the rain we're getting, but we're happy for it up here. Carola is the author of around no less than 60 books, including the Daisy Dalrymple series, which is world famous, I believe, and I don't know how many languages it's out in now, but anyway, I'm just delighted to have you here. And I'm hoping that you're going to give us a little sample from across the spectrum, but whatever you're up for tonight, Carol, if you want to just dive into one particular book. Oh, and you got your pup with you. That's
Yeah, she just arrived.
Very good. Must have known you were coming on live.
Oh,
There
sweet.
we go.
Thank you.
Welcome. Well, so in addition to that, I should mention that you've got the four Cornish mysteries set around 1970 and 32 regencies, and not counting numerous novellas. So you are prolific. My goodness. I
Well,
want
it
to
took me 30 years.
Yeah, well, I'm probably about your age, and I don't have nearly. So I want some of whatever you're drinking or smoking. I send it up this way. No, anyway, welcome so much to Electric Mermaid. We're delighted to have you here, and we'll give you the floor here. And again, like we did with Alex, we'll maybe open it up for some question and answer afterwards. I know you've got Dory down in California there, who's a huge fan of yours that I guess you're already connected on Facebook, but she might find something else she wants to ask about. So please
Sorry, I'm glad to hear.
take it away. The floor is yours.
Okay. Daisy Dalrymple, who is my main mystery character, the series set in the... Sorry, I can't do it. If I shut her out, she's going to shout. She is, the books are set in 1920s, and when I started writing the mysteries, I'd been writing regencies for many, many years, and I don't know how many of you know about regencies, but they tend to they're set in the Regency period of early 19th century, and they tend to deal with the upper classes. So I sort of had the mindset of, I knew what I was doing with the upper classes. Though somebody once asked me if I was an aristocrat by birth, and I had to say, no, thoroughly middle class. But so I made Daisy the daughter of a Viscount, a dead Viscount actually, who died in the pandemics, the flu pandemics that we're all learning about today. And her brother had died in the First World War, so she was kind of out on her own and having to earn her own living. And she ended up with a position as a journalist writing about stately homes because as an aristocrat by birth, she had entree to a lot of places where other people couldn't go. So my first, which was really my inspiration, I really wanted to write a stately home mystery. And that was Death at Wentwater Court. But as the series grew, and there are 23 now, I couldn't keep going to stately home after stately home, so they all vary. And in the one I'm going to read from, Fall of a Philanderer, Daisy takes her stepdaughter. By now she's married to a Scotland Yard detective, and she takes her stepdaughter and her stepdaughter's friend to Devon, actually, for a summer holiday, which starts out in pouring rain, but clears up. And they make friends with a young beachcomber who is a mute, he can't speak, and who's very much bullied by the village people. And she learns something that makes it possible he was involved in the murder of the guy they found at the bottom of the cliff. You can see that something obviously has happened there. And she mentions it to her husband, who's investigating the murder. And as a result, the young man, the beachcomber, runs away, and he's seen going into a cave that was going to be flooded at high tide. So Daisy is afraid that some of the bullies are going to be on the lifeboat and he's going to be afraid of them and he won't come to them. An ominous roar she had been distantly aware of grew louder. The cliff towered over them now, with headlands on either side. From the crest of the next swell, she saw waves breaking in thunder on the rocks. There was the mouth of the cave, a black hole shaped like a crooked horn, wide at the base, narrowing to a point at the top. Daisy caught a glimpse of a swell surging into it unbroken, half filling the opening. Watson appeared beside her again. "Hold tight, missus," he bellowed in her ear. Daisy hung on. The sudden jerk would have thrown her overboard had she been standing. "Have we hit a rock?" "Nay, cock set the anchor. Right down clever seaman he be. They're paying out the chain and she's drifting down gentle-like towards the cave, between the rocks, so they'll just have to fend off. If you'll move forward a bit, missus, us'll pull up the dinghy alongside. The lifeboat can't go into the cage, so they're going to send a few men into the cave in the dinghy." The point of the bow had stopped just a few yards short of the cave mouth when Baxter and Watson swung over the side into the dinghy. A third man carrying an acetylene lantern moved to join them. Daisy recognized him as the other joker who had threatened to take care of Sid's cart after his fracas with Mrs. Hammett. Her memory filled with a vision of Sid's distraught face. She pictured him scrambling away in terror as they called to him, hiding beyond their reach, drowning because she had set Alec onto him. Before she quite realized she had made up her mind, she was scrambling over the gunwale. One foot found purchase on a loop of rope, the other waved around until the men in the dinghy caught hold of her. Above, shouting faces looked down, inaudible amidst the crash of waves breaking over nearby rocks. The coxswain appeared, looking furious. However, he waved at the dinghy's crew to go ahead. His lips appeared to form the words, "No time to be lost." Daisy crouched in the bows as far out of the men's way as possible. Baxter knelt in the stern with a boat hook at the ready. Watson was seated on one of the rowing benches, his oars in the rowlocks but resting inboard. The third man pulled the dinghy forward by the rope looped along the side of the lifeboat. The men above paid out the cable and the dinghy slid backwards into the shadow of the cave mouth. A swell exploded into froth against the rock face on either side, but the unbroken center lifted them into the cave. The sound of breakers diminished. For a moment, the mass of water blocked most of the light, then it rolled on. Their umbilical cord to the lifeboat was no longer taut, Daisy noticed, as the men outside, unable to see what was happening, gave the dinghy some slack. Ahead of them, the wave reached the end of the cave and flung back a shower of spray with a boom felt as much as heard. "See him, Jimmy?" Nay. Daisy had assumed the cave would open out into a lofty chamber once they passed the entrance. Before the murky daylight dimmed again, she saw that though wider, it was no higher inside. Jimmy got the lantern lit just as the next swell arrived. For a moment, the air seemed to thicken and press on them. The brilliant white light flashed wildly about. Then, in the slack water between the waves, it steadied and started to quarter the cavern. Boom, and a shower of spray. The light jigged about the rocky, inward-sloping walls. "There he is!" Eyes straining, Daisy had caught the glimpse of a white face as the light passed. "Back a bit, down, there!" Sid crouched on a rock shelf, clinging to a crack in the wall. The passing swell had drenched him. Water streamed from his clothes and hair. His face was turned towards the dinghy, his eyes closed against the blinding light. "Throw in a belt and us all hauling in." The dinghy was bobbing in the backflow again, but Baxter's throw was perfectly timed and placed. The white lifebelt landed right beside Sid. He flinched and backed away. "Sid!" Daisy called as the dinghy rose on the next swell. Her ears felt funny from the air pressure and her voice sounded strange. The swell moved on, and the beam of the acetylene light steadied again on the floundering figure of the beachcomber. Somehow he was holding on. Scattered light showed the cork ring floating nearby, unreachable. Jimmy, turn the light on me for a moment. Sid, this is the lady on the beach, the one with the two little girls. Boom, and a shower of spray. We've come to help you. He's throwing the belt again. You must catch it and put it over your head. Put your arms through it. Hurry. The boat rose. Sid disappeared as the wave caught him. The light reflected off the dark water. Then his head reappeared, gasping. Keep that light out of his iron, Jim. The light slid to one side, reflecting off the water, and once more Baxter flung the belt. Catch it, Sid. Put it on. Sid grabbed at the belt. Daisy thought it was slipping from his fingers, but he hung on. He crouched there, holding it, uncertain. Sid, Daisy yelled, Sid, put it, boom. Jimmy flashed the light on her again, then back to Sid. Put it over your head and under your arms. That's right, and the other arm. Best he come when the water's high, said Watson, as another swell darkened the entrance. Less like to knock on the rocks. As the dinghy rose, as the swell reached for Sid, Daisy shouted, jump! Now, Sid, jump! So that leaves you wondering whether Sid got out of the cave, whether Daisy got out of the cave. My books aren't all drama, and there's quite a lot of humor in them, but the drama is the fun, really fun stuff to write. So I was going to read you a couple of bits from the Cornish mystery. I'm not sure how time is going. Someone.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead. You got, yeah, take your time.
Okay.
Another 5. Easy.
Okay. Buried in the Country is my 4th Cornish mystery, the last one. And the situation is that the two main characters in the Cornish mysteries are Eleanor Trewin, who is in her 60s, and she's retired from a job that took her around the world working for a charity. And her niece, Megan, is a police officer in Cornwall. And Eleanor bought a cottage in a small Cornish port, which is actually based on, if you've seen Doc Martin, I think it's called, the TV show is filmed in the same place, which is actually Port Isaac. And in this book, there's been a murder taken place and 2 men have been kidnapped. And Eleanor and Megan and half the police in Cornwall are out on the moors in the fog looking for them. They've been taken off in a white van. And I'll read you first a bit of Megan's side of things. Oh, is this just a minute? No, first a bit of Eleanor's. They found one of the men face down in a bog with a footprint on his back that suggests he was actually shoved in there. And Eleanor doesn't want to watch them pulling him out, so she decides to go after the other man, the one whose footprint presumably that was. Eleanor couldn't watch. She considered following Jay. Jay is a policeman and Carly is his dog. As Carly, nose to the ground, led him away at a trot. That was what Teasel obviously wanted. I haven't given you enough background. Teasel is Eleanor's Westie, who goes everywhere with her. Eleanor was afraid that the little dog's presence might distract the big dog from whatever trail she found. She decided to climb right to the top of the cheese ring quarry. There was a footpath up there on the left of the flattish top of the hill where the tors still stood. After a few false starts among a jumble of rocks, she found the path she wanted. Teasel, full of energy, led the way up the steep slope, Eleanor trudging after her. As they got higher, she met wisps of mist. Higher still, she could see that the clouds cleared only to the south and east. The hill blocked the breeze and the leeward side was still draped in fog. The crest of the hill rose above it though. Eleanor and Teasel came to the first tour, a huge pile of rock slabs like an uneven stack of Scotch pancakes, all different sizes. The biggest was near the top. It was hard to believe that Mother Nature had piled them up or eroded their surroundings so thoroughly and strangely. No wonder legends of giants abounded. She looked down the slope, and here and there on the slopes torches were visible, bobbing up and down, disappearing momentarily behind bushes or rocks, flickering through gorse bushes. A lot more men had arrived since she had slipped away from Megan's car. Teasel whined. It was a soft, anxious sound, not insistent like when she had drawn attention to the body in the bog. She was staring at the tour as if she could see right through it. Hush, Eleanor whispered. Good girl, stay. Inch by inch, she crept round the north side of the tour, setting each foot down with care. A loose pebble rolled against another with a chink. She stopped and held her breath. From beyond the tour, she could now hear a low, intermittent mutter. Nothing about it suggested that her approach had been noticed. The impression it gave was of someone arguing with his own silent inner voice. She strained her ears to catch a second voice. Nothing. Cautiously, she took 2 more steps and peeked round the tour, through the sideways V between 2 of its rocks. Between her tour and the next stretched a space of grass and tumbled boulders. On one of the smaller stones, much too close to the edge for comfort, a man sat with his head in his hands. As she watched, he stood stiffly and took a step towards the edge. Okay, she's found one of the villains, but she may have lost him again. Meanwhile, Megan and the police, Jay, the policeman with Carly, the dog, are looking for the 2 men who've been kidnapped who have still not been found. Jay and Carly were at the head of the valley. As Megan and Torero hurried after them, Jay took off the dog's collar. She dashed over the brow of the hill and disappeared. Jay looked back. Come on, he called. She is now certain of the trail. He speaks kind of formally because he's of Indian background. He grew up in an Indian environment. Torero, who's African, overtook Megan, running with long, loping strides. Cross-country team, he said consolingly as he passed her easily. She redoubled her efforts to stay at his heels. At the top, she had to stop for a moment to relieve a stitch in her side. From here, she could see that the land continued rising on her right, up to the cheese ring tors. Lit by the moon, they stood out against the starry sky. The fog and clouds were gone. Suddenly, Carly barked and went on barking. Jay's torch found her. She was on a more or less level stretch of ground, grassy with patches of bracken. What interested Carly was a dark blotch nearly surrounded by bracken with a leafless bush on one side. The barking dog danced sideways, back and forth, facing the dark patch, her attention focused on something in the middle, invisible to Megan. As Megan reached the level ground, she could tell that Carly was looking downwards. Jay, a step ahead, he and Torero approached her together. Sit, Jay commanded. Carly obeyed and stopped barking, but she continued to stare down into what appeared to be a hole. The 2 men both shone their torches into it. Jay spat out what sounded like a curse in his own language. Megan, it is Nicholas and another man. Dead? She forced the word past the lump in her throat. 2 more steps took her to his side. They stood on the brink of a cup-shaped hollow, 6 or 8 feet deep and about a dozen wide, a sinkhole or an aborted mine shaft. It was half full of bracken
A few blood-red berries still clung to a small bent hawthorn tree. Megan made herself look down. The bottom of the bowl was grassy, not bog or water, thank goodness. Nick lay curled up on his side. Freeth was sprawled on his back. Both faces were deadly pale in the torchlight, but their eyes were closed, not open in the fixed blank stare of death, which didn't mean that they were alive. Okay, that's
Wonderful.
Daisy and the Criminal.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful writing, just so vivid and clear, and it just flows so effortlessly. Wonderful to listen to that. Thank you so much. So we'll open it up if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask. Please just, Jackie's got her hand up again. Go ahead and unmute there, Jackie.
Oh, splendid stuff, Carola. Thank you so very much. My question right off the hop is 60 is a lot of books. And obviously mystery is your thing pretty much. Or I'm not sure about the Regencies. Are those mysteries also?
A lot of the Regencies have mystery elements, but they're not mysteries. They're technically romance.
Okay, all right. So how do you keep these plots fresh, and how do you come up with new ways to kill people?
That's a lot of the fun, and I guess I read a lot of mysteries and get ideas from all sorts of places. Read the newspapers. Lots of killing going on out there, unfortunately, and there's always new ways to kill people, but I don't particularly concentrate on that. I mean, like Agatha Christie invents the most incredibly complicated ways to kill people, so that she has strange and intricate plots, but I prefer to concentrate on the characters, and I'll kill people in quite simple ways, concentrating more on their relationships with the people around them and why people might want to kill them, than on the incredible details of how the gun is whisked out of the window by an elastic cord when the shooting occurs so that it disappears, and all that sort of stuff, which gets, in my opinion, a little too complicated. So I've killed people with a dagger, with poison, with, let's see what else, with the wrong medicine, with, what other ways are there of killing people? Blowing them up, lots of different things.
But mostly with your pen. Mostly with your pen.
Mostly with my pen.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope that doesn't get excerpted off of YouTube. It's a confession. No. So thanks for adding that, Jacqueline, at the end. That's good. Any other questions out there from anyone in the audience? Just go ahead and unmute or throw the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'm curious.
Dory's got a question.
Okay, go ahead, Dory.
Well, what I'm
having trouble with Zoom.
all of the different characters that each one make some kind of a contribution to the plot.
I think your mic has slipped down, perhaps, Dory. Has your mic slipped down?
I don't know. Where's the mic?
I can hear you now.
No, you just have to speak up, Dory.
I have to speak up.
Good, now go ahead.
Carol, I was talking about your characters. So many of them are important to specific parts of the plot. And if they were missing, you'd have to create some other kind of device.
Yes,
Did you hear that okay?
basically, what I do is I create the plot and then have to invent the characters to carry it out, so to speak. So yeah, the characters are all come to life because they're needed in the plot.
That's fascinating. I really do. Because they're so unique. Each one is different.
Well, I try.
Okay.
Thanks for that question, Dory. Yeah, the essentialness of your characters and plot-driven versus characters and the overlap there, yeah, it's inevitable. But just from what you read there, I could get such a clear sense of your protagonists, especially. Very clearly drawn. So I have to ask, with that many books out, is it possible to name a favorite? Do you have one that just sort of you look back and say, I got it all right, every word in that one, or?
They're all right, of course. No, I don't have favorites. They're my children. I don't have favorites among my children.
They'd be happy to hear that if they were alive. Yeah, no, that's good. The books. No, I wonder. I mean, yeah, that many. It's really amazing. And yeah, to keep inventing new plots and not having the characters overlap, that's remarkable imagination. So kudos to you.
I don't have any problems with the characters. The plots are difficult.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have a question out there? I'm just checking from what I can see. No, okay. I'm not seeing any more hands raised or anything. So,
Carl, do you have a question?
Yes. Now I notice it says it's set in England. Now, how did you come up with that idea to be set in England?
I was born there and I grew up there, and it's 10 years after leaving, I was still in my head in England. And then I wrote about England and I wrote more about England, and I still, I guess, am kind of stuck in that, in England in the past, not in the present. So I just went on. I mean, Regencies, which I started with long before the mysteries, are mostly set in England, though I have set them in, let's see, Russia, Belgium, Costa Rica, Spain, France.
Have you been to these places?
I'm sorry?
Have you been to those places?
I've been to most of them, not all of them. But the Costa Rica one was kind of funny because my ex-husband wanted to go to Costa Rica, and I thought, if we're going to Costa Rica, it's got to be tax deductible, so I'm going to have to write a book that at least is partly set there, which I did, and we deducted my half of the expenses.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's ideal. Yep. One of the perks of being a writer, right? Yeah. You can write yourself a tax-free holiday. Yeah, it's good.
Right.
Good. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Someone has...
You're freezing a little bit there, Carola, I think. Did you have something? I cut you off on that?
I can't remember if I did.
Okay. All right. Oh, good. Anyway, thank you so much for the reading and answering the questions. Really, really enjoyable. And
well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and please come again anytime. We'd love to have you back. And
thank
tune
you.
in, like I said, third Friday of the month. Electric Mermaid happens every month. So
right.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you again. Take good care. Okay, we're going to move along with a few more of our open mic readers now then. And for once, we can call on Kathleen Vance, and Kathy is actually live at Char's Landing. And yeah, this is a first. We're so happy to have her in Port Alberni. And I only wish I could be there to see in person, but anyway, I'll take second best, which is here live on the Zoom. So Kathy's got the stage. Take it away.
Yeah, me too, Eric, because this story was your idea. Okay, get out of the way, the boy shouted as he slid down the cobblestone street on the large block of ice. The two girls who had been walking ahead, arm in arm, screamed and jumped to either side. The boy just missed them. Whew, that was a close call. Watch where you're going next time, the boy called back to them as he reached the house at the bottom of the hill. The girls ran after him, wanting to give him a piece of their minds. Watch where you're going. What are you doing with that ice anyway? The man lets me deliver it to my house at the bottom of the hill. He says it's my free ride, and I help to him too. What's the ice for? One of the girls asked. For the ice box, of course. You want all our food to spoil? But don't you have a fridge? But before the one girl could finish, the other girl poked her. Come on, you two can help me slide this over to the bottom step. My mom's not home, so I can use the help. The Iceman will carry it up the stairs into the ice box. Okay, my name's Anne and my friend's name is Mars. We just arrived here in the city and Mrs. Murphy up the street said we can stay with her. My name's Billy. The three of them pushed the large block of ice over to the bottom of the steps. Work makes me hungry. Are you hungry? Mom's always got some water boiling on the stove. I can make you some poor man's soup. Soup that's only for men? What about women? Mars asked. He means poor people's soup, Anne explained. We've got to save money. We've no money to waste, the boy said, puzzled about what the girls were talking about, but still trying to explain about the soup. If you got to save money, maybe you shouldn't be giving soup away, Mars said. Nah, it's all right. I'm going to give us each 1/3 of a bowl, and then I'll put in extra water. You'll see. Billy said as he set 3 bowls on the table. He took a bottle of ketchup off the shelf and poured a bit into each bowl, and then added boiling water on top of it. He gave each girl a spoon. Just stir and you've got tomato soup. Billy got a stale piece of bread. Don't mind my boarding house reach, he said, as he crumbled a bit of the bread into the 2 bowls across the table from him. Eat it quick. It don't taste as good as it looks, Billy warned them. It doesn't, Anne said, and Mars poked her again. No, it don't. It's not as good as soup made with real tomatoes. Soon my mom and dad or me are going to have a garden and grow real tomatoes and can them, so we'll have them for all winter, Billy explained, thinking the girls were complaining about the soup. How come you got to save money? Anne suddenly wanted to know. We're moving out to the country. Remember, I told you we're going to have a big garden with tomatoes. We're moving close to the big freight yard for the railroad. My father works there. Billy was so excited, but Anne and Mars were sad because they liked their new friend, and now he was leaving and they might never see him again. Just then, Billy's mother came home. Who are your new friends? This is Anne and Mars. They live with Mrs. Murphy. Well, don't that beat all? I was just talking to Mrs. Murphy about you 2 girls. You know, she can't keep you for long, not enough room for you. But I know a lady on our new street who's all alone and could use 2 girls like you to help her out. After school, mind you, girls your age belong in school. The lady's wanting company more than anything else. You'll just be up the street from us, so I'll be able to look out for you. What do you say to that? Wonderful, both girls cried out at once. As the 2 girls started up the street to Mrs. Murphy's, they suddenly both stopped dead in their tracks. Something really strange was happening. It was as though they had walked off the street onto a movie set, a set for a really scary movie. A movie that was playing not in a theater and not in real life, but in their heads. All around them, people were running, yelling, and screaming, and there was a terrible screeching of wheels and clashing of metal. Do you see all the blood, Anne asked Mars? See it, I can almost taste it. Just like when you're running and fall and bite into your lip and make it bleed. Then, just as quickly, the movie set disappeared. The movie that had been playing in both their minds was over, and the girls were back in reality on the street near Mrs. Murphy's house. Didn't Billy say that his father worked in the railroad freight yards? Could it have been a railroad accident that we saw? Anne asked Mars. If it was a horrible one, said Mars. Oh, Mars, do you think we should go to live with a lady we've never met in a strange place near the freight yards where something awful is going to happen? Yes, we have to, Anne. We must be here at this time for a reason. Besides, Mars smiled, we have made a new friend. And he may soon need our help, added Anne. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad you took my advice. I think that's beautiful. As they slip out and dip into another time zone here. Fantastic. All right, our next reader up is going to be David Kipling, Kathy's partner in writing crime. Taking the stage live at Char's Landing. There he is. I see the shadow. There's the man.
This is brand new. I did it a couple of days ago and I threw away 3 paragraphs and it should be better. New character. Janice checked her wallet as soon as she'd come in and locked the door of the rooming house bedroom. If she could persuade Mr. Hellman in his tiny office under the stairs to pay her to repair those loose banisters, Mr. Hellman's welcoming gaze last week had lingered. Call me Yuri, please, young lady. We can be friends. Fat chance, you weasel. Anyway, he might pay cash or take something off the rent. Janice could remember stairs she'd built, mostly good, once or twice a masterpiece. But she still regretted those she'd finished in a hurry, and she could point exactly to where an invisible mortise and tenon were ill-fitting, and only she knew. She was tired from work and saw her carry-all bag peeking out from under the bed and shook herself. She heard the clatter of saucepans from the kitchen from way down the very bottom of the rooming house. Big earthenware sink, judging by the dull racket. One of the pots sounded like a deep one, she could tell, cast steel most likely. Potatoes for sure, she could imagine them. Can't go wrong with mashed potatoes, not in a rooming house with a dozen boarders who likely work hard or are poor, or quite often both. The common dining room was okay. She'd glanced in on the way up the stairs when she'd arrived last week. A bit drab, old linoleum, but good enough to eat in. She lowered herself onto the coarse top blanket and bent to swap her boots for indoor sandals. She unzipped her bag, pulled out some underwear and socks, tossed them in the small wash basin and ran the tap. Then she straightened the spotted mirror and inspected the woman who looked back at her. Janice's dad worked in the last remaining shipyard on the River Tyne, Armstrong's. Armstrong's had been there forever. Whenever a freighter or tanker was being refitted, before the electricians and plumbers got to work, in came the strippers with sandblasters, high-pressure water lances that could cut a man in half, with abrasive grinders and caustic fluids that could mark you for life. They wore thick overalls, thick gloves, ventilated air masks, and they crept far inside the echoing steel hull and stripped it to naked metal. Everything they chipped and blasted from the hull left a poisonous grit on the dry dock floor. The sour, almost blood-like stink of her dad's work and her dad's overalls had made easy Janice's entry into an apprenticeship as a carpenter. She used to watch for her dad at the end of his shift from the older Hanseatic Trading Exchange where she was putting in new floors and stairs. From an open window, she saw the line of men stooping out of the gutted tanker. She had seen the yellowish haze drifting from the hatches during the day and imagined the air inside the ship. She had watched them trudging across to the changing rooms and the shower block. Janice would wait till her dad reappeared, stepping jauntily out of the brick building in his street clothes, and climbed onto his moped and rode towards home. So unlike her silent Uncle Irwin, her mum's brother, who lived in their top room and had been charitably taken in after he was fired from the kitchens of the old Panorama Hotel. A silent, distracted man who haunted his room and the backyard and the dining room like a transient ghost. Uncle Irwin had ignored Janice until on the steep stairs one morning, he showed her his silly penis poking out of his brown slacks with the blue belt that didn't match and the wide pleats. And as she slid past him, Janice had recalled something she'd overheard her parents say. She had been sunning on the tiny front patio, it being July, and the window was open, and her dad had been saying, "Mark my words, he'll be back in the asylum if he starts doing it again. One day it'll get in the paper, and I don't care if it is your brother." Which had further sped up Janice's plan to leave home and earn a living as an independent contractor with a van and tools, a trade certificate and the references. She had her own business account, the best thing in the world. But no big spending, not yet, because tucked safely into her brain was a menu she would one day order from, a porterhouse steak that they serve in the Royal Wentworth Steakhouses. There were only 5 Royal Wentworth Steakhouses, and the most famous one was in London. Not that Janice had ever been to London, but Mr. Braithwaite, who owned Braithwaite's Commercial Joinery, had once regaled everyone with the tale of his London spree and of those legendary steaks. She had practiced saying Royal Wentworth, which wasn't easy to pronounce, but you had to get it right, supposing you phoned them or something. Janice had eaten a 12-ounce steak once at the Ship and Anchor out near Gateshead when she was going out with a rugby player. They ate steaks. It was nice enough, but Mr. Braithwaite had described the 18-ounce steaks called a porterhouse steak and all those extras on it. One day she'd go. Cream sauce, mushrooms, chips, a dab of horseradish. That's what goes with a good steak. Imagine the Royal Wentworth, the posh one down in London. When her boat came in, when the van was paid off, not too long now, if she got onto a good residential housing contract and put in some double shifts. Then she would clean up, get her hair done, put on a good slacks and blouse, a necklace or something, and she would go down to London. Imagine, she would walk straight in, make a beeline for the desk, ask for a window table, please, just like Meryl Streep. There'd be stained glass and brass trim, and a smart waiter would come with her order, an 18-ounce porterhouse steak the silly man thought she couldn't eat. And he would set the heavy platter on the white linen tablecloth, and Janice licked her lips at the woman in the chipped mirror above the small wash basin with the socks and underwear soaking. So she rolled her broad shoulders, winked at her reflection, and after locking both locks, you always do that in a rooming house if you've got any sense, she clattered down the bare wooden staircase to ask Mr. Yuri Hellman, landlord, not friend, what he'd be serving with those mashed potatoes tonight. Thank you.
Beautiful, David. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that lovely contrast between our dreams and our realities. All right. Moving along. Jackie, are you still there? I see you've disappeared off the screen because we're going to, yeah, you're still there. Awesome. Okay. We're going to call on you to go next as our next open mic.
Victoria is here. Derek?
Oh, Victoria's here. Oh, okay. Sorry. I just flew by you. You can go off screen if you want again, Jackie. Victoria Romano, Roscoe-Roumanis is going to give us some poetry, I would imagine, and Victoria's there live at Char's Landing, just waiting for her to come up to that stage. And sorry, Victoria, I almost glossed over you there. There she comes. All right.
Gosh, so many wonderful memories of this wonderful place, Char's Landing. Oh, yeah, mine goes back to so many times. But anyway, here we are with Electric Mermaid, and I'm happy to read tonight. The first one is called Used, Abused, and Reused. You dressed in red working the streets, available to all who needed your service. In a private place, you facilitated intercourse for both business and pleasure. You attracted all who needed you. In the beginning, you were marveled at and respected. The years went by, and your services were required less and less. You were brutally abused, disfigured, and your income stolen. It became increasingly difficult to keep you functional. The telephone company lost their battle. To add further to your demise, the cell phone was born, accelerating your demise. In repayment for your long years of loyalty, the scrap dealer is the final call for many. A fortunate few of you remain in safe, strategic places to serve, while a few more of you are operating in a different capacity. ATMs housed within your red iron exterior, and some of you becoming a lending library. Take a book, leave a book. My nostalgic heart is warm to find there is a creative future for you. I pray you will grace the streets of England for many years to come. And there's a telephone box outside Demex on the way to just past or before Parksville. I've had my eye on that for years. The first time I saw it, I asked its price. It was $5,000. And I haven't found anybody yet who's willing to buy it for me. So it sits there outside, deteriorating. The next one is called The Woman with the Brown Shawl. The traffic lights turned red. The walk signal flashed. A young, attractive woman stepped onto the crosswalk, carrying herself like a model on a catwalk. She was wearing a knee-length fitted dress, high heels, and holding a brown shawl over her shoulders, which she moved gracefully from side to side. She did not carry a purse. Her walk was one of freedom and availability. Her every movement exuded an energy which stimulated the onlooker's intrigue and imagination. Who was she? Where was she going? Was she out looking for fun, or on the way to give a show at a local bar? There will be no answer to these questions for the observer, but the memory of her striking performance on the crosswalk will remain an everlasting image. And the last one is Wrestling Spirit. September, with October approaching, causes my spirit to struggle with this particular season, autumn. As the sun loses strength and distances itself to give its warmth to faraway places, it leaves a cool that chills me and causes me to coil up inside of myself. I feel like the fading foliage and summer harvest as they struggle to retain their vibrancy. On a day blessed with lingering warmth, I try to stay in the moment. But as the sun makes a rapid descent, the warmth is quickly snatched away and comfort slips through my fingers like water. Then my spirit is flooded with melancholy, the result of difficult circumstances experienced at this time in past years. I feel as if I am folding up like a leaf on a tree, afraid to fall, unable to rise up. It is always a wrestling match, yet each year I force myself to embrace the present, to enjoy the change in the days, the joy of gathering and preserving the harvest, picking apples, plums, and pears gleaned from abandoned trees I have adopted as my own. I snuggle my garden down for winter, appreciate a rainy day to tackle inside work, neglected due to my love of being outdoors when the days are long. I draw joy from wrapping myself up in warm clothes that have been resting in the closet. a bonfire with friends at the beach, when everything cooked on the fire tastes amazingly wonderful, even a can of beans and burnt toast. There are so many delights of this season that soon lift my spirit and have me dancing to a different tune. The electrifying color of the changing leaves and the stunning orange of the pumpkin patch. It won't be long before I will be singing out to welcome the hoarfrost on the trees. And with luck, in this warming climate, snow.
Beautiful. Hopefully not too soon on the snow. Thanks, Victoria. That was great. All right. Our next reader is Bob Frankow, aka Joe Lunchbucket, our local Char's Landing curmudgeon, come to share with us some poetry again, I believe. Come on up to the stage there, Bob. There he is.
How's that? Is it hearable?
Definitely. Go for it there, Bob.
Do governments and media couch offensive fact and repeat palatable lie? Does church, state, faith, logic defy, and politicians atheism must deny? Does the media monopoly and national interest manufacture consent? Is this intelligent design to ensure their views are front page event? Is native our N-word and freedom of speech isn't politically correct? Is prime directive re-election and buying votes with tax dollars no parties reject? Taxes fund public sector. Can the same benefits to all workers they yield? And will signing native treaties like Nishka level the playing field? When world speaks English, is funding French and native tongues sense? And is rebuilding Notre Dame Cathedral for atheists a worthy expense? Does capitalism's carrot on a stick support socialism so both coexist? And should democracies poll voters and fulfill the majority wish list? Will adopting China's two-child max raise living standards of population and allay fears of ocean pollution, global warming, and desertification? Did ending conscription make patriotism exclusive to sons of the poor? If cannon fodder voted, would any nation wars have to endure? Would presidents with CEO powers for their term their interest protect? And for raising bottom line, would the graceful majority their party re-elect? Can reason and science exorcise superstition and suicide bombers eliminate? If leaders were subject to Nuremberg rules, could peace on earth we celebrate? Okay, that's one. There's another little shorty here. This is kind of spaced out here, but why on earth has ET not attempted any contact yet? In light of history's colonization, should we be upset? Is superstition still 21st century tradition and bearded turbans and burqas they see? Are we as peaceful as a bee colony, or are suicide bombers used in war industry? Does our God culture a blood sacrifice decree? Will a one world government the world ever see? Is our dependency on prayer or reason and technology? Are we civilized enough to join galactic fraternity?
Thank you, Rob. Always ask the tough questions. Okay. We've got Jackie Carmichael next. Jackie, our artistic director and author, ex-journalist, well, still kind of journalist because you read her press releases. Just genuine good soul. Welcome again to our Electric Mermaid, and can't wait to hear what you're going to read.
Thank you, Derek. I wish to thank the First Nations on whose land we rant and rave and read, and express my gratitude to them for this space. Okay, this comes from my book, Heard Amid the Guns, True Stories from the Western Front, 1914 to 1918, which was published last year, 2020. So, some 59,544 of the soldiers serving with the Canadian Expeditionary Force died in the war. Almost 3 times that many went home physically wounded. Time would reveal that for many, the psychological scars were often more difficult to heal. Returning wounded in heart, the boys they once used to be wanted their years back. Subsequent generations might want the same thing. In these young soldiers' postcards, journals, and letters, we have permanent records of the social media of yesteryear. It was just slower, analog, all the way. This was how they tweeted. A postcard trundled across continents and oceans into a cast iron mailbox. Pen, paper, a note scratched out by a fellow scrawled on sodden trench floors, ignoring his peers as he texts home. All that was missing was a keyboard. Canceled stamps hanging on for dear life through onioned layers of handling. Instead of a drop-down menu of who should see this, letters were posted, censored, carried by cart and in the bellies of ships, delivered, ripped open, pressed in scrapbooks, shown over tea, cradled in fingertips at the market. No Facebook posts or texts, journal entries, and their memes, propaganda posters to influence and persuade. Bad news, not a voicemail, but a telegram, crumpled and distressed, abandoned, damp on a hall table. Or the dreaded, sorry to inform you knock on the door. And if he was gone, there was a photo on the mantle instead of a selfie on Instagram. And no GoFundMe for the widow and her children. Walking on the Western Front, descending into preserved trenches, visiting museums, sifting through the social media of 1914 to 1919, talking with the descendants of other veterans, I heard so many fascinating stories from so many different perspectives. I wanted to present as many as possible, if only because the questions linger. We may know what they did in the war, but what did war do in them?
Beautiful. Thank you, Jackie. Yes, that is the question. What did war do in them? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Sometimes I think I don't want to know, but all right. We've got another open micer that is live in Char's Landing coming up now. And that's Robbie Vandermeer originally from the Netherlands, and he's moved here to Port Alberni. And I don't know, Robbie, I think you're putting down roots here, which is really good to see. We're happy to have you in good old Port. So the stage is all yours. Take it away. I'm not getting any sound there. Hang on.
Me now?
Yeah, okay, we got you now, Robbie. Go ahead.
Yeah, the destruction that war does to humankind. There's got to be a change, an answer. Hopefully our children and our children's children will find an answer. I've tried to be not as damaging as my father, and My children are better developed than I was mentally. The era that I came up through was born in 1951, so I got a touch of the Christian type schools as I went through the Catholic school system and the way they use their straps as gunslingers. Thank God it's not as bad as the poor natives have experienced. And I'm from Australia, where the Aboriginals have had a hell of a time trying to find a voice. So thank you so much to the Native community for allowing me to be here in Port Alberni. And I also want to thank Char for opening up Char's Landing, for the ability to have artists and have people with opinions come out and voice them. This is the only way we have a voice, folks. That and going to rallies and being at Earth Speaks type of events. So that's not what I came here to do today. I came here for reading. I'm Robbie Van, I'm an artist. I do music, poetry, I paint, and I'm also quite a good cook. Plus I'm a fashionista, so it all comes around in one big cycle. So I'm gonna perform a few of my songs and do them a cappella, if that's okay with anybody. So the first one is The Karmic Scales of Justice, and within it is the gritty streets of the city and the lights and all the back alleys and the corruption that's everywhere. So it's a call to arms. Calling all angels to the shadow world war. Light up the darkness, our backs against the wall. It's time for confession, let's measure out the toll. It's the karmic scales of justice that are keepers of the soul. Electric buzz and ozone sparks, scatterhead pod boys, skater parks, the splish and splatter, colors in a can. All the pretty boys go running from the man. The bottle does a ting, a huff from the bag, a puff in the alleyway suits the old hag. The corner boys are hustling, working out a deal. Business is a ripoff, always cops a feel. Up pop the Billy boys, bang through the club, push around the manager, which one the thug, the pop-bellied mayor, the old boys gang. Innocence a victim, but someone must hang. Politicians, crack whores, party in the night. So rich, there's no jail, naked in the light. A pull from the puppeteer, we do the poor man jig. The learned counsel does a line, the judge enjoys a swig. Sizzle in a copper pan, bacon in a pen. Misery from money meat supports a future's men. Slaughtered, butchered, bred and bound, our death is now on sale. The legacy of Barbary truly has no scale. The pitter, the patter, the gutter full of rain, the fluffing of the pillow, the sweet release of pain, the urgent calls, the strident bells, the squeak of nurses' heels. It's the end of time and the end of the line, and the devil's in the deals. Angels, not innocence, protects a wayward child. Debts and sins and faults not theirs, angered, hurt and wild. The burdens of a battered youth indentured by its birth. Slave to its meager existence? Ah, the needle knows its worth. Dungeons and dragons, a hell house of man. Franken me oily and fill me with spam. Place me in prison, slop from a pail. Drink from the cesspool, for the world is on sale. Calling all angels to the shadow world war. Light up the darkness, our backs against the wall. Time for confession, let's measure out the toll. It's the karmic scales of justice that are keepers of the soul. Thank you so much. So something a bit lighter, I think, for the next one. We live on the West Coast, so we have a fishing feel around here. So I did one with fishing boats. Drifting, sifting, I finally slipped in the heart and the soul of a dream. While watching a whale's fin fell into a tailspin, all on the roundabout queen. She got a fine little dory's got her own filthy story, seen many a harbor, what's more. She rowed me to shore, carried food from the store, and ferried me in stormy seas. Oh, Dory, Dory dee, oh, please come ferry me, for I've had me a pint or two. If you get me home tonight, I'll try to make it right, and I'll paint your bottom for you. Here in the briny with the salt and the spray, a wandering fisherman home for the day. The seagulls lament as it sails on the breeze, as the eagle stands watch from shore in the trees. Oh, Dory, Dory dee, oh, please come ferry me, for I've had me a pint or two. If you get me home tonight, I'll try to make it right, and I'll paint your bottom for you. So when you think about it, we're all made from stardust and fungus spores. That's what caused life on this planet. They figured fungus is the only thing that can travel in the cold, dark of space and make it from planet to planet. And fungus breaks down rock and makes it available for other plants. So we all come from fungus. Oh my gosh. So, of course, under the mushroom tree where the jelly bellies grow, when the piggly wigglies waddle by, they do so in a row. As the boggleberry bush sheds its gibbled baby leaves, you'll find little Jemmy Jenny and a big knobbly knees. Now Jemmy's in her jammies, as a moggle swaddle cried, but so she didn't hear the bangleberry blood-red beating side, and the billy blues and black and white with their fiery crimson dome took Jemmy Jenny and Bugly Babe to a plaid miser's home. Oh, the boggleberry bush was looking mighty bare and sparse, and there's quiet from the jangle-dangle-tangled home at last. And there's no more mushroom trees allowed to grow on people's lawns. They poison trapped those dreams away. Now it's all politics, wars, and laws. Down came the muggle-up, guilty from the muck-a-muck. Throw the bandy blokes to bake, a file is locked inside the cake. Now Jemmy Jenny grew to be a jammy jungle Jane, fighting for survival. She bit and fought and trained. She's a rebel of the system, and peace is her reward, for she found herself a mushroom grove. And oh, how Jemmy scored! Oh, the boggleberry bush and the willy-whacker weed, the tangled taste of sunny days. Sweetie pie with hybrid seed, the sticky paste with now to waste in the belly of the bong of sea. It's all the way in the slacker's day, in the valley of the mushroom tree.
Super, Robbie. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, we are looking for extra musicians. If there's any of you out there that are looking to play with a dynamic band called Panama, that's a band that I'm the proud leader of, come and join us. You can find us on Facebook. And I'm Robbie Van. Good night. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for that wordplay, Robbie, and the heartfelt thoughts and the clarity of your vision too. Appreciate it. And sorry for getting your background wrong. Someone told me you were from Holland, but I guess your ancestors are, I'm guessing. So Australia anyway, and anyway, glad you're in Port Alberni these days. So it looks like we're come to the end of the show. I've got a little story to read. How late is it getting? I don't know. It's a couple minutes to 8. How's everybody doing? I could save it till next time, or carry on. We'll carry on. Okay. All right. We'll carry on. Oh, William in Calgary. Did you want to read? I just noticed you there. No, I'm guessing not. Okay, all right. So I'm going to read you just a little excerpt from a story I'm working on. And the background, it's based on an experience I had in South Dakota a few years back when I went down for a visit. And the situation is the characters, it's a couple, Hannah and Harley, older couple, and they're in line at a coffee house waiting to get a psychic reading. And the couple ahead of them are the next in line. The door opens, the reader says, come on in, but only one of you can come. You have to pay separately. And so the husband and wife that are ahead of them argue, and the wife says, no, you've got to go. You're the one who needs the closure. I'll wait for you out in the truck, and pushes her husband to go. So then they start to have a conversation with the woman who's left behind, and it turns out that their child was killed in a school shooting, and so they're hoping that they can connect with the spirit of their lost son. And so after she tells Hannah and Harley this, Harley and I look at each other for half a second before I put my hand on her bony shoulder. Look, I say, my husband and I were hoping to go together too, but just out of curiosity, you know. We've never done this sort of thing, so it doesn't mean much to us. I think we'd both feel better if you took the money we were going to spend and used it for yourself. That's right, says Harley. We don't even know anyone on the other side yet. He reaches his hand towards hers with a 20 folded between his fingers. Oh, no, I couldn't do that, says the woman. I mean, I don't even know you. It's okay, I say, please just take it. You and your husband have been through so much, it's the least we can do. Oh, you folks are too kind, she says, her eyes welling up with tears. Thank you so much. She takes the money from Harley's hand and gives us both a hearty hug. Where did you folks say you were from? Canada, says Harley. Oh, way up there, she says. We're from Florida originally, but we moved up here to try and forget everything, but it didn't make much difference to Big Ronnie. Sadness has a way of sticking to him. I figured we could just make another baby, but that didn't seem to be in the cards. Not that we didn't try, you know. She smiles when she says this, like she's remembering more than we care to imagine. Now it feels like it's too late for that already, and I'm not so sure a new baby can take the place of a dead one anyways. I don't know, I say, people are having kids in their 40s these days all the time, and don't give up too soon. I mean, I had my last one at 38. He's still living in our basement. It's not just that, she says. We saved up enough money to go to a clinic and all. Turns out Big Ronnie's count is on the low side. He thinks it's on account of the years he spent spraying weeds and mosquitoes for the city in Florida. They didn't even give him a mask. Not that he'd likely have worn it anyway. His boss told him those chemicals were safe enough to drink because that's what the sales guy told him. Yeah, those guys will swear a lie in their mother's grave if they think it'll make a sale, says Harley. I told Big Ronnie we should sue them. I even talked to a lawyer, but Big Ronnie said he didn't want the world to know he can't make babies no more. Guys are like that, I guess. Me, I'd take the $1 million and run. She opens her purse then, a little knit bag slung over her left shoulder, and tucks the money we gave her into a leather snap pouch. Do you want to see my Derringer, she says, grasping what I assume to be the gun in her purse. Sure, says Harley. He's always been more curious than I am. Something about guns has always made me squirm, like I expect them to spontaneously go off. I step back a little as she pulls out a small handgun with a mother of pearl handles and a shiny trigger. I keep it loaded with 2 hollow-nosed bullets, just in case I miss with the first shot, she says. And I got another handgun out in the truck. Do you need a permit for those guns, I ask. Only for the Derringer, she says, because I keep it hidden. The other one's okay, so long as I keep it visible in the truck. Is it hard to get a permit, asked Harley. Not here in South Dakota. All I had to do was show them my expired permit from Connecticut, and they gave me one right away. It was kind of funny, because I got into a bit of trouble when I was younger in Connecticut. I glance at Harley when she says this, but he keeps his gaze trained on her face. We had known our own trouble when we were younger, too, much younger. That was way before I met Big Ronnie and moved to Florida. Anyway, I had a felony, but it took them 15 years to realize that and cancel my permit. It wasn't until they got computers that they figured it out. Meanwhile, when I moved to South Dakota, they didn't even check once I showed them my old permit from Connecticut. Crazy, huh? She smiles like a mischievous kid who just pulled one over on her parents, and she tucks the pistol back in her purse. That's the first time I've ever seen a real Derringer, says Harley. I mean, I saw plenty of them in Westerns on TV, but they're a lot more impressive in real life. After little Ronnie died, I used to hope somebody would give me an excuse to use this thing, but I don't feel like that anymore. What still gets me though is when I think about all those women who get pregnant without even trying and then get rid of it like it's a piece of trash. Them women don't deserve to have kids. I think we're going to head back to our hotel and call it an early night, says Harley, and slips an arm around me. Yes, I hope the reading goes well for you, I say, and give our best to Big Ronnie. I will for sure, she says, and thanks again for paying my way. For socialists, you got to be some of the nicest people I've met. That's it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight and reading. Lovely readings tonight. Fantastic stuff from our featured readers, especially Alex. And yeah, you know, I'm sorry. Carola, forgive me. 60s, you know, you hit your 60s and you have these gaps. Anyway, and lovely to see all the people live there at Char's. Big thank you to Char at Char's Landing for hosting us as always on the Zoom and live. And don't forget the e-transfer at charslanding.com for those who can afford to throw something her way. It's always appreciated. Thank you to Jackie, our artistic director, to Carl, our moderator, for keeping us on the straight and narrow, and for Micah, our photographer, and for anyone who tuned in just to listen, and for all you open micers who bravely stood up and read, and to Jennifer, our spotlight reader tonight too as well. That was awesome. So fantastic 2 hours. My head is spinning with all those beautiful words, and look forward to seeing you all next month. And Carl, I'm going to ask you, or maybe I'll ask Jackie. I forgot to look ahead to see who's coming our way in October. Do you have the names off the top of your head? I'm putting you on the spot here. She's scrolling, she's clicking.
I tell you, Derek, it's felt like having royalty here today with our friends from Gibsons. They took 2 ferries, and they're so charming in person. You thought they were charming on Zoom. Oh my goodness! Both Carl and I took a ton of photos. So any one of you, Jen, if you can fly from Ontario to get here, we'll be taking lots and lots of pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, Kathy and David, yeah, I'm so sorry. I missed being there with you guys tonight. I was really looking forward to sitting down and having a good chat. But anyway, another time, I guess. Maybe I'll have to come to Gibsons. I don't know. Jackie, any luck? Did you find features for next month? I can't hear you. You'll have to unmute there.
You're muted.
Jackie, you're muted?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Sorry, Susan Raby Dunn is going to be with us. She is the author of a plethora of historical books. So we're going to have some nonfiction, and also Bill Arnott, a friend, of course, of ours, and reading from Gone Viking 2, the sequel to his Gone Viking, which is another smash hit. So please tune in again. I believe that's October 15th, Friday, October 15th at 5:45, and we'll look forward to that Pacific time. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you again so much to our feature readers. Alex, congratulations on your fabulous book. And I really want to read that now. Okay, it's on my list.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Derek, for being our MC.
Thank you, Derek.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Mwah.
Glad to be a part of it all.
And again,
all right,
thank you,
everyone.
Jackie, for stepping up for stuff I do. And you're going to step up for October 15th because I can't be here live. I have to be at a Bulldogs game. So Jack is going to be my
Bulldogs game. Oh my, that's fantastic. I know you're a fan.
number one person.
I don't know, hockey over literary art. I don't. It's not a contest for me, Carl, but I understand. You're a Canadian.
We do.
All right, take good care, everybody.
Have a good month. We'll see you in October, I hope. Thank you again.
Bet. Okay. Good night, all.